Well, that made it live and clear that it definitely is recording. So this is just going to be a short and sweet video. We wanted to throw out there our top 6 for this year. So obviously all those beautiful European places, the ones that really matter. We're not really going for the conference stuff. I'm not going to say we're above that because they get paid a lot more than we do, but we're going to give the European, I've forgotten, I've genuinely forgotten what the other league's called as well. The Champions League and the Europa League. That's the one.
The Champions League, yeah, that's quite important, that one.
That's the one that's, that's the money spinner, isn't it? The £100 million match that they all look forward to playing. So, do you want to go with your top 4 first and foremost, and then we will delve into Europa?
Interesting. All right. So I don't know what yours is going to be like. We haven't even discussed it. So I'm quite excited.
We planned this about 2 hours ago. So, this is a bit of a thrown together. Let's talk for 10, 15 minutes.
Could get wild.
Exactly. Yeah. So go on. What are your thoughts? Who's going to win the Premier League this year?
Oh, we're starting off there.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the top 4, isn't it? Straight
into it. Chelsea.
Okay.
And I don't have a single doubt in my mind either. I'm not having any of the other top 4 close to them, in my opinion.
Wow.
City a second for me. So that's fairly obvious that they're going to be up there. But Chelsea have just, I did a piece today on Liverpool and their transfer window and how Chelsea have actually had the lowest net spend of the window this season because they've sold a bunch of players. They've sold Moses, Zuma, Tammy Abraham, and they made more funds than they spent on Lukaku. So they've got rid of a lot of back kind of room players that don't really feature, and they brought in Lukaku, who for me is the missing piece to the puzzle for them. Tuchel came and steadied that ship defensively, so I've got no worries about their defence at all. And then you've seen Jorginho in the Euros, you know what Kante can do, and that front line now is just terrifying. As soon as it clicks, Mount, Havertz, Lukaku, Werner, Ziyech, it's going to pop off. So easy, simple. Chelsea first. City would have been first for me if they'd have got Kane, but without a striker, great depth, great squad, but they'll be second. I've got Man United third with the signings they've made. They've made a lot of good signings, and Ronaldo, Varane, and Sancho, but the midfield is still too weak for me. I was looking earlier at like a poor team's top 6, like the back players that you wouldn't like really think of, and I saw McTominay and Fred in there, and I thought, yeah, that's like 2 bad midfielders of the top 6, and they start for Man United. So without fixing that area, they'll be third for me, but they'll be higher than Liverpool in 4th, who have just not done enough in this window for me. I think they struggled last season. They haven't replaced Wijnaldum. They've sold Shaqiri. So if there's any injuries to their front 4, which is possible, they'll have to look on Origi to kind of hold the mantle. And it was Salah forcing that striking option last season when Firmino and Mane went missing. I don't expect them to kind of liven up this season either. So straight and simple, Chelsea, Man City, Man United, Liverpool, top 4 in order. What about you?
Right. Well, I am going to throw in the Manchester United to win the Premier League this year. I know. I've been thinking about this for a day or so. Have they got enough? And do you know what? No, they haven't got enough. But then Chelsea have just about got enough. The only thing that I worry about with Chelsea is their injuries with Kante. I think Jorginho on his own, he's a superb. Don't get me wrong, he's superb. And I really think that Kai Havertz is going to come into his own this year as well, especially now that he has got Lukaku to hold the ball up, get everyone else up the field. Similar to what Kane does, to be fair, at Spurs, except they've just got a more stable front 3, to tell you the truth. I think Lucas Moura for Spurs just doesn't quite do enough for them. But going back to Man United, I just think their forwards have got it. I really do. And it pains me to say, because I'm a Leeds United supporter, and I would love to. And do you know what? When you were talking then about Fred and McTominay, Calvin Phillips is double the player of both of them by a million miles, and I think Leeds won't be in the top 6 this year. I think they'll finish between kind of that 7th and 10th spot. I'd love it if they got into the Europa Conference or whatever it's called. But I think going back to United, they've got the strikers there now, especially with Ronaldo, and he's not just going to benefit that front line. He is going to benefit them in training, especially with Greenwood. Can you imagine that? He's what, is he even 20 yet? Is he 19?
No,
something like
19.
that. 19.
Yeah, 19.
He's going to be learning off one of the, well, in my opinion, the greatest player in the game at the moment. And that's just absolutely, I can't. The only fault that I can see in that team at the moment is in Fred or McTominay. But I think Maguire and Varane as a back two are going to be they're not going to be as good as he kind of Ferdinand and it was Vidic, wasn't it?
Vidic.
They've got a lot to prove because they're brand spanking new together. But for me, United could actually do it this year. I think City are going to struggle against the top teams where they play a lot of sideways passing for me, and they're not going to be able to break as many teams down because they've just not got that focal point. If they'd have had Harry Kane, I totally agree. They'd have been head and shoulders above everyone else for me, to be honest with you. So my top four is going to be United, City, Chelsea, Liverpool.
See, the thing there with your prediction, the thing is I can see because Ronaldo can force any team lacking to success. But I think don't quote me, but I think McTominay is injured at the moment, and that's one of, for me, a very poor midfielder out. So I think they're playing with Fred and Pogba at the moment, and if one of them goes, the midfield to me is just it's scary. Other than obviously your attacking midfielders, and you don't want Chelsea in the top two.
I can't see it happening. No, I
really.
Do you know what? They have, like you've just said, they've got so many great players now in that squad. They really have. But I think it's going to take a season for the top three to gel properly together. I think the defence that the top teams have got at the moment, especially with blinking out, Virgil van Dijk coming back into the Liverpool squad, I think that just solidifies their back, their defensive line. I really think it does. It makes me really look forward to this next season. It really does. And you know what? I'm in two minds about United winning it, but I just think they're going to score more goals than they concede, and I think they're going to win more than they do, than they do draw or lose now, especially with that missing. I mean, Cavani and Ronaldo. Who'd have thought that strike force would have been a team? Greenwood, 3-3 at the moment, something like that. Yeah. Rashford, when he comes back in, they've got Sancho. They've just got so many good options up front, and I know exactly that's my point. They've got so many good options.
It is exciting.
City have got, Ferran Torres. He will more than likely go into my fantasy team because I see him being more of a focal point for City. So the goals are definitely going to come in from there. But I just think Ronaldo is going to be a 25 goal this season kind of guy, just in the Premier League alone. That doesn't even count the Europa, not the Europa League, the other one, the Champions League. So I just, it makes me quite excited to talk about it. Anyway, top four done. Next two, who's going to finish in your fifth and sixth position?
Just before I tell you, top four, what competition did they get into?
Champions League. I really had to think about that.
Again.
It's been such a long day.
Right, fifth and sixth. So,
and this Mr. is for the Europa League, yeah?
This is no, it's for relegation.
We'll come on to that in a minute.
We will come on to that. I'm excited about that. So fifth and sixth, I've got Mr. Reliable Leicester City at fifth.
Okay.
Who just don't have enough for the top four, but just have enough to finish above the rest, sort of thing. They're going to be. They're in limbo. They're stuck in limbo again for me this season because I just see them having a bit more than Spurs because they've got that stability and their transfer sort of record is just unbelievable. And what they've brought in some good players again this season. They've prepared for Vardy leaving, who doesn't look like really he's slowing down too much.
No, he's not. He's still absolutely on form, isn't he?
Yeah, he's on fire as well. So I don't see the team slowing down. Rodgers has got what he wants. They've just won the FA Cup. They won the Community Shield. Am I right?
Yeah, they beat Chelsea.
They beat Chelsea, so they're
No, they
not.
didn't. What
They're,
I'm talking about, they beat City. Chelsea was
City,
the
sorry, yeah.
FA Cup.
Yeah, they beat Chelsea in the FA Cup. They beat City in the Community Shield, so they're not walkovers. Iheanacho's class, and they've got players all over the pitch, and they've got depth. So again, Mr. Reliable fifth, and that as well is because I see them having more than the teams below. I see I've got West Ham in seventh. I know we're not talking about seventh, but I've got them there
Wow.
because they're in
Okay.
Europa League. That's because they're in Europa League. I'd have them higher. You know what teams are like once they've got all those congested fixtures. Wolves done it; they struggled for a bit. And other teams, I'd have West Ham higher if they weren't in the Europa League because they've just got a great squad.
Yeah.
But sixth, Spurs. That's an improvement on last season, but I think it will still be a disappointing season for them just because they've had so many feathers ruffled over the transfer window. I still think they've got a great squad,
Yeah.
and I think they've got a great manager, but they just can't compete with the top four yet, and they can't really outdo Leicester. I think Leicester have got more stability, and I say this is kind of like for Spurs as if it's like a jump up, but not enough. But I've got Arsenal at ninth, so it's above what sort of they've both been labelled as the same recently. So yeah, Leicester and Spurs fifth and sixth.
And you know what's really disappointing? I absolutely agree with that. I think that was going to be my choices as well. Um, so yeah, exactly the same reasons. I think Leicester are really on a bit of a movement right now. I don't think as much as they're going to aim for top four, I believe that they'll miss out. I believe it'll
Yeah,
be marginal. I don't think they will miss out by too much. I think they'll probably keep up with the top four relatively well towards the middle to back end of the season because I don't think they're going to lose too many players to, well, obviously January transfers and things like that, but then also to other things going on in the international circuits.
yeah,
So again, it's similar to Spurs. I think they've got a great striker. They've got a great front two in Son and Kane, obviously, and I think obviously the bulk of goals will come from there. Son's had a great start to the season. Kane's got one, so he's obviously off the mark. So yeah, I think we'll leave it at that. Who are your relegation three?
Well, this has changed since the season started. I had my table set up, and a few bits have changed over the first three games. I think I don't know if this is going to surprise you. It might not. But I've got Burnley bottom.
Wow.
I think they've outstayed their welcome. It's been getting worse and worse. I think Dyche is a great manager, and I've got a lot of respect, and I like the squad. They've just not got enough for me compared to the other teams.
Yeah.
So I just think they'll just get. I don't think they've got a point this season. I think they'll just get beaten. I think they got one against Leeds. Sorry, but they just won't.
Now.
Yeah,
Yes, they've got 1 point.
1 point against Leeds, and they did look good against Leeds, but I just think they'll just get battered by all the teams above, around the top.
Fair enough.
I think they usually will. They'll have a bit of defensive solidity and that kind of thing. It's not always easy to break them down, but I just think they'll struggle compared to the other teams.
Yeah.
And then 19th, I've got Watford, which I don't know, might not surprise too many people, but they've got some great players around the team, Ishmael Assar and bits like that. But they've also got Craig Cathcart still lying around and Ben Foster, and I just think there's still a bit of like improvement that's needed around the team. They look like they've got like a good striker in Dennis, and like I say, Ishmael Assar, they'll get goals, but I just don't think the squad's capable of competing with other teams. And then this one might shock a bit, but I've got Newcastle to go down in 18th.
They're in my bottom
I,
three, funnily enough.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
there we go. I think they're in a lot of trouble, and there's been a lot of trouble recently with the ownership, and the thing that's, I texted you the other day talking about Norwich and Newcastle and the difference between the transfer windows, which we may come on to. But I think at first I thought Norwich would go down, but they've had a progressive transfer window, whereas Newcastle spent the whole time chasing Joe Willock, and that was all they added. If they get an injury to Callum Wilson or Sam Maximan, the squad is slim. Yeah, it's a very, very slim squad, and they struggle even with the two players as well. So I just don't think they'll have enough to compete. I think Southampton are going to struggle, but they've still got a bit of youth stability. Ralph Hasenhüttl might have them playing the way he wants to, and Adam Armstrong looks good. Crystal Palace are a bit of an unknown, but I think they've got some good players. I just watched the England under-21s, and Conor Gallagher scored 2 goals before the international break, and he looked electric. He's just got an assist. So I think they've brought in some good young signings and trying to change their model with Vieira. And yeah, there's not too many teams I see struggling down there as much as Newcastle, Watford, and Burnley.
Yeah, so I'm going to make one slight change in that. I think Norwich will go down, but I think Newcastle will finish bottom of the pack this year.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know. I really do. I think Newcastle are going to have an absolute torrid season just because I think it feels like they've scraped results over the last few seasons, to be honest with you, and they've not had anything convincing. And I think, like you've just said, the transfer window was pretty, but it wasn't pretty poor, it was terrible. They've secured one signing, that was kind of not mainstream, but it was in the sense that, it hit the media and what have you. So I think Newcastle are going to be bottom of the pack. I think Norwich will be 19th. And then who was my last one? It was Watford. Yeah. So, which I'm disappointed about because I know that you just mentioned the goalkeeper whose name once again has escaped me, Ben Foster. I actually really like his YouTube channel. So I really,
same.
I'm a bit of a fan of that. So I really don't want to see him, get dragged down. But unfortunately, that they are my bottom 3. I think, like yourself, I think Crystal Palace are going to have a tough season with the new manager, but I think they're going to have enough to plod on with into the next season. Who else do I think are going to struggle? Burnley. I think they're going to struggle, but they're relatively solid, and I say relatively loosely because they've let in 3 goals, but I think they'll do okay. I think they'll be all right. You look at the other teams around them. I'm going to disregard Leeds out of that because I know that Leeds will, the style of football they play will just, as long as they can, they don't have to place the ball in the back of the net. Rafinha did it the other day by smashing one from outside the area or whenever it was at, wasn't far off. But, I think Brentford, they've had a good start, but I think the season will tire them out, especially the pace of the Premier League. So even though they're sitting in 10th and they're looking all right in 10th, to be fair, 1 win and 2 draws, I think that they will be towards the bottom of the table. I think they'll be edging towards the bottom 3 and they might even flirt with it. But I think they'll survive. I think they'll get a second season in. So they are the big predictions.
Okay, I've got to disagree with the Brentford one quickly. I think they'll come 14th. I think they won't come too close to the middle, too close to the bottom. But I think they'll Ivan Toney and Buemo, players like that, and Janssen. I think they'll be okay. But yeah, there's the predictions.
It'd be interesting, won't it? I can't knock any of yours. I love the fact that Arsenal are sitting bottom of the Premier League at the moment with -9 goal difference. That is absolutely shocking.
It's unbelievable.
I've heard in the in the ethers, if you like, of the media that Antonio Conte is waiting in the wings if they do not win the next 3 games. So, we will see what happens to Arteta over the next month, but. I can't see him winning all 3. I think Norwich will probably give him a good run for the money, to be honest with you. And that's saying something. So anyway, we'll see. But there you go. That's our top 6 predictions and relegation predictions. So we will catch you up in the middle of the week. Thank you very much.
Perfect.